I'd like to call to order Monday, February 23rd, Richmond City School Board Meeting, starting with a budget work session. Madam Clerk.
If the board members who are present, please respond. Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Sturdivant. Mrs. Larson.
Here.
Ms. Gray.
Here.
Mr. Boomer. Mrs. Taylor.
Present.
Mrs. Harris Muhammad.
Here.
Dr. Jones. Mrs. Pinckney.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
At this time, we need to make some amendments to the agenda. Madam Clerk.
For item 3.02, you are removing everything after the word plan. So the decision on board training per the memorandum of understanding with the state will not be acted upon tonight. And your new 3.06 will be received for action, a resolution reaffirming board policy with regard to board conduct, and that the board would re-examine policy on employment grievances for non-certified support staff and recommitment to the superintendent and the staff on district priorities. And 3.06 then becomes 3.07. Those are all the amendments I have, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Under 3.02, you're removing and decision on board training per memorandum of understanding with the state. You have a new 3.06, which is receive for action a resolution reaffirming board policy with regard to board conduct, and that the board would re-examine policy on employment grievances for non-certified support staff and recommitment to the superintendent and the staff on district priorities. And you have your 3.06 then becomes 3.07, the estimate of needs. Ms. Larson made the motion to amend the agenda. It was seconded by Mr. Sturdivant.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Is on the budget tonight, will there be a vote on the proposed budget?
At this point, it will be decided at 3.07. Whether or not we vote.
I would move that we take that off the agenda and postpone it until our next meeting on March 2nd, so that we have enough time to continue to consider the budget, discuss it, talk about it, and then vote on it on March 2nd rather than this evening. So if that needs to be part of the motion to amend the agenda, I would add that to
Does it need a second? Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Make a clarification, Ms. Larson.
Mr. Sturdivant, I assume that's pending approval
and
from the city.
That's right.
Correct?
And so as part of this, we would reach out to the city and confirm with them that we
Make the request.
will vote on it next month.
Yep.
Ms. Muhammad.
I need a point of clarification. You said the resolution as a part of that resolution, there was to pinpoint the superintendent estimate of needs, something about board conduct, and a couple of other things.
The resolution was to reaffirm board policy with regard to board conduct, and that the board would re-examine policy on employment grievances for non-certified support staff and recommitment to the superintendent and the staff on district priorities.
I have a concern with the way some of that is written. I don't understand with reaffirm or board conduct, reaffirming board policy. I mean, I'm very confused with that wording. I mean, what my understanding of the resolution was to be three things: to assure that we would support the superintendent. I didn't, maybe many of you talked over the weekend. I was not a part of that conversation, but I didn't hear anything about Where's board conduct coming in from? Policy, I mean, you have to explain to me what I don't understand about this
Oh, we're
resolution.
just reaffirming the policies that are already in place around board conduct. The resolution would just affirm what's already in our policies.
So we have to have that in there to have a resolution?
Go ahead.
Just as a point of clarity, this is just, right now the discussion is whether or not to amend the agenda. And at that particular time, when the resolution comes up for discussion on the agenda, you can raise the questions there, and there'll be a full discussion about the content, the substance of that resolution. But right now, the decision is whether or not to amend the agenda to add that as an item, inclusive of everything else. Well, when I say add that as an item, add consideration of that resolution as an item on the agenda.
I don't want to, I'm not comfortable adding it. I'm not comfortable adding an item or amending the agenda when I don't understand what the resolution is consisting of.
Okay, and so I guess we would have to vote on whether or not the agenda can be amended as it was moved and seconded, and the friendly amendment that was made to it. And so if it passes by the majority, then it's amended, and you can vote no to the amendment. Of whether or not to amend the agenda.
Whether or not to amend the agenda. Ms. Epps.
For clarification, this resolution that's being added, the agenda is being requested to be amended to add and discuss this resolution.
The resolution, right.
And I know that, when it comes to a vote, we can vote, but where did this resolution come from? I'm not familiar with the resolution. Is it something that we received over the weekend to take a look at? I don't...
No, you have not. That's what we're going to discuss it tonight. It's been something we've been working on, and we sense a sense of urgency to try to bring it forward tonight.
And it's a resolution.
Yes, resolution.
Yes.
Yeah, I too would like to see
Do we have a copy of it that we can look at now?
Like, before we open up discussion, I'd like to have advance parliamentary, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bourne,
Are we not in a budget work session right now?
no, we have to set the agenda
For a meeting?
for the entire meeting.
Okay. Thank you. I move pending question, Mr. Chairman.
I don't hear it.
I second.
You call the question.
Yes, ma'am.
You call the questions.
Okay,
Motion to end the discussion on amending the agenda was called by Mr. Bourne, seconded by Ms. Gray. Mr. Sturman?
Yes.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor?
No,
Mrs. Harris Muhammad?
we're amending the agenda.
Ending the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Oh, yes.
And Ms. Taylor, you said yes?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinckney?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
And Mr. Coleman?
yes,
So the amendments to the agenda, the motion was made by Ms. Larson and seconded by Mr. Sturman.
yes,
Mr. Sturman?
Yes.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bourne?
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor?
No.
Mrs. Harris Muhammad? To amend the agenda.
Yes. Yeah.
Mrs. Pinckney?
No.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
And Mr. Coleman?
yes.
Motion passes 6-2. The agenda has been amended. And you are now in the discussion of the superintendent's estimate of needs for fiscal year 15-16.
Excuse me. Just one quick statement. As a courtesy, if we want to make resolutions or amendments to the agenda with items that impact the entire board, if we could just have a little bit more advance notice, at least a courtesy email would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Westerville? Okay, board members, in order for us to watch the presentation, they reserve seats for us out on the front row so we can see the PowerPoint.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, board members, and guests, and co-workers. We sent some additional information, supplemental information, based on the last work session, and because we received the information from the General Assembly, there's a House and Senate version. There's only $92,000 worth of difference between the two. And then they reduced the VRS rate further. Originally they had reduced it from 14.5 to 14.15. They've now reduced it again to 14.07. And so that also reduced the state revenue because the state funds a portion of the retirement contribution for the teachers. So that reduced revenue by $35,000, but it also reduced our expenditures for our share of the contribution for the retirement for all employees, for the instructional employees, for that rate reduction of $118,000. At the bottom of that slide, Bill. There we go. Okay. Then there's a salary increase of 1.5% for all positions. That's what's in the House version. We have 1.7% in the budget in the superintendent's estimate of needs, so there's nothing else that needs to be added to meet the requirement for that 1.7%, I'm sorry, for the 1.5%. But as a result of that, again, because of the House and the Senate versions added the 1.5% increase for employees, and that added $1,049,000 on the House version, $92,000 less on the Senate version. One of those two will be adopted. And so that will increase our revenues by the million. All right, next slide. No, back. There we go. Okay, so then we had to make a few minor adjustments. The Megan Walker Governor School, we had to add $40,800 for tuition adjustments since the last version you received. We eliminated the transfer to the RTC print shop because we had one person working over there, and we were transferring money out of the general fund to that fund. So there's no money difference, it's just that we're moving that person into the general fund, eliminating the transfer and paying their salary directly out of the general fund. And the transfer was coming from the general fund anyway, so it's a net zero effect on the budget. We just wanted to note to you that we made that change and show we have an increase of 1 FTE to the general fund budget, but at no change in money. Technical corrections, we had to make some changes to a few positions that netted out some pluses and minuses and netted overall to an increase of $78,000. And then because of the health insurance, we originally had put 10% in. Again, we're self-insured. We're partnered with the city on our health insurance for employees. And now the health advisors, based on our experience so far to date, we still have another quarter to go. It could change. Right now the experience for this year is looking good. So we reduced the increase from 10% to 6.8%, which caused the lights to go out. Yeah. So that was a $775,000 reduction that we were able to make to the estimate. So between the increase in the revenue, the reduction of the expenditures, we've reduced the gap, which was a $30 million to $28 million. That's the net of it, which we'll show you here in 1 second. Okay. Okay. So the gap was $30 million, the revenue increase of $1 million, the adjustments that we just reviewed. Move it up just a little more, please. Raise this, there we go. So now the gap is as of today is $28,274,291. Okay, so that's our benchmark, our baseline for working at this point. Okay. And then we sent you some information in the weekly report on principal and assistant principal, a salary transition plan. I didn't have the cost of the benefits included in that when we sent the information to you Friday. So adding benefits, it was $360,000 roughly, or $70,000. And then there was $90,000 more to be added for the impact of benefits on top of that. So that transition recommendation would be $459,700 if you wanted to add that. That's not included in the superintendent's estimate of needs at this point. And that's a transition plan to help make the principal salaries or the key instructional leaders in the buildings recognizing that and wanting to do something about getting the salaries in more parity for equity and external competition. And so providing an interim benchmark or a target We have an independent salary study occurring right now. It's going to be completed for all positions in the division, but that's not going to be completed in time to factor into this budget. It'll be ready for next year when we prepare the 17 budget, so that's why we're calling this a transition point. So this would be a bridge only for 1 year to get started going down that path. And then we'll wait on the recommendations of the salary study and your review of that to determine what the next steps would be. Yes, to be externally competitive as well as internally equitable, because there's just been some changes in terms of how people have come into the system over time and where they all are relative to each other now internally. Yes, sir. The salary study, and it'll probably be another couple of months before it's completed. We're having a progress meeting this week. Right. It's in progress right now by a third-party company. We're having a progress meeting to see where they are with it tomorrow and look at some benchmarks, but I'm sure it's going to be another 30 or 60 days before they're completed the work on it. Okay, next. You asked for some information, additional information about Title I positions and where they are, because we have the 13 positions in there for the early reading initiative and the state reading and math specialist money. And you were wondering where those positions would be, which are showing over here on the right side, relative to where we currently have Title I teachers who spend a lot of their time in reading and math as well. But there's going to be, it's a different kind of function that'll be utilized. These other 13 positions that are over here on the right will be utilized differently than the Title I reading and math specialists are. Oops. Please silence your phones. I didn't say that already. I'm not sure. No title. Okay. All right, we can go to the next item. Okay, and this is a recasting of all the budget changes that have occurred from our current adopted 15 budget, which is 206 for the general fund only, 262,594,000. And this is outlining all 27 million now. It was 28 million and some change, and then we had a $2 million gap, which brought us to the $30 million gap. Well, now we're down to $27 million of change. 27,119,700 is the difference. And this is outlining in descending order by from high dollar to low dollar where those items are. So the academic improvement plan is now $7.8 million. On one of the slides we gave you earlier, we talked about the professional development days being $5.6 million. That was if we had to, in the general fund, pick up the impact of those 9 professional development days on the federal grant funds, which it doesn't look like right now we're going to have to. So we backed that down and reduced that to 4.9 million. So now it's, instead of $8 million, it's now 7.8 million for the academic improvement plan items. The Benford Fine Arts model, the college career readiness improvements, the salary adjustment is still in here at 1.7 at this point. It'd be about $565,000 less if you went with what the state is proposing at 1.5%. The exceptional aid compliance and improvements, 2.8 million. The technology to support the division, various division initiatives that are throughout here in addition to the AIP. There's also technology components in the AIP plan. Of two, yes ma'am.
Can you clarify again the salary adjustment and what the state is doing?
Right, this is,
How much are we getting from the state and are we required to make a match?
yes, and the state's offering, that's where the other extra million in state revenue is coming from, is for the 1.5% increase. And since we already have 1.7 in our budget, then you wouldn't have to add anything to the budget to meet the state requirements to receive the funding for that 1.5%. They give us the state's share of that 1.5, which was $1 million for them. And for us, it's about $3 million, and maybe two. For 1.5, it's maybe 2.6 million, somewhere in there. So they're giving us $1 million of that 2.6 million. So we're ponying up 1.6 million of that increase for the 1.5. But we've got 3.1 million in the budget for the 1.7%. So then, correct. Okay. Maintain current service levels. Those are for items that have shown traditionally every year that we have to incur those expenses. We don't really have a lot of choice in most of them. We're going to offer those services. So we've included them in the budget because before we've been relying on having money left at the end of the year to pay for those items, which is not a healthy way to the budget. Because if we're going to run out of that money, and because we don't have a fund balance by law in the state of Virginia as a school board, and we have no funds to rely on other than asking for an additional appropriation from the council. And if they were to decide not to appropriate those funds, and you did overspend the budget, then you're guilty of malfeasance of office, which is not a good thing. So that's why we budget those dollars. Okay. Weighted student funding allocation, coming up with a formula to identify and recognize that it costs more to educate some kids than others, and to allocate those funds on that basis. There's a lot of work that has been done on that nationally, and so the purpose of putting that $750,000 in was to allocate that in that way. We're still working on the models on how that would be done. School improvement is a hold harmless because once utility increases to $600,000, school improvement holding harmless is for the schools who have come out of school improvement. When they first come out that first year, then they've got all these supports in place, and suddenly they're gone. So you need a transition period to help wean them out of that. Yes, it could be, and it depends on how many schools are in improvement. So that money could, if everybody was coming out of improvement, that money would go away eventually, the need for it. Athletic maintenance, the rotating plan that we put in place, just like we did for the band equipment, to also bring up to standard the athletic equipment, which is extremely ancient and decrepit. And this is a way to do it over a 5-year plan. We can't afford to do it all at once, but that was the recommendation for that. HR reorg improvements of $100,000 based on the study and review that was just done by the Council of Great City Schools. Communications audit plan that was just completed, and the recommendations that came out of that would require us to spend $98,000 to implement those improvements. School new department requests across, it's minor, very minor dollars across all the departments of 60 schools and departments. Security enhancements, mainly there's 2 additional security officers in there for Huguenot High School, which has 50% more square footage than the old high school did. So we need 2 more security officers there. Warehouse closing is going to have an impact on increasing the need for support services in the finance arena. For one, for several thousand invoices will have to be paid and processed from external vendors due to not utilizing the warehouse for instructional and custodial supplies primarily. Clerical support additions to cover 3 offices basically. Stipends, VPI and psychological interns, $90,000. Some technical corrections that I mentioned earlier, the $78,000. The fine arts enhancements, that's a specialist. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it's the professional development office, the school business partnership office, and the curriculum instruction office. Grants office, sorry. Not the curriculum instruction. Grants, professional development, and business partnerships. The board docs, we paid for out of year-end money at the end of last year for this year, but at the end of this year, then we don't have the money in the budget any longer to support that, which we're using, or you're using, every board meeting now. Yes, yes, sir. That's the $50,000 in one school and $15,000 in the other 4 high schools as a rotation. Huh? Oh, that was a formerly funded item from the foundation, which is no longer funding it, so if we were going to maintain those athletics, then we had to absorb it in our...
We were trying not to lose, we said we had a commitment to physical, mental, and social development of our children. That money is anticipated in the foundation, so we're trying to make sure that we sustain those services for our students. I believe it was part of that that's slowly disappearing, is that money is drawn in, not the new one, the old original.
Right. That's, my question is why it's part of necessary.
It's not for now, and they're still raising money. But at some point, if you're really going to open the school athletics, the model needs to be we need to own it instead of depending on an external source. We need to start building capacity. Do you remember which schools? You said it's all of them. Some services coming out.
It's Mr. Hawkins.
Anywhere the USR athletics was.
Okay, so that's total additions of $32,800,000. And if you can move the slide down, Bill. Okay. And we also built in $5.7 million of reductions in the process, taking out of the baseline adjustment, the factor for turnover from last year, $3.3 million. Operation and maintenance, they reduced, they looked at reorganizing and increasing efficiencies and reduced by $963,000. Transportation reduced $230,000. There was a reduction in force of 2 positions that were determined not needed. They're called resource facilitators that were eliminated for $177,000. The retirement rate impact we mentioned earlier is $595,000. And then sub-bus drivers amount was reduced again because of planned efficiencies and changes in the way we're operating. And VGLA scoring, a reduction there in exceptional education. So that's a total of $5.7 million, which nets us out the changes of $27,119,000, which when added to the current year's budget of $262 million brings us to a general fund budget as modified by the General Assembly at this point before any board actions of $289,713,700. If we take the current year's revenue plus the General Assembly additional revenues that we just identified, then that leaves us with our gap of $28,274,285 that we just reviewed again. So that's the detail in a nutshell of every change, every dollar is different from this year's budget to the 16. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Westbank, things like Minds in Motion, Virginia Heroes, some of those programs, where are they embedded in here somewhere?
They're in the base budget, so they're in the baseline.
Okay.
So if it wasn't a change in the budget, then it's not, it's in the base. And part of what I did in 2 work sessions ago is where I layered out the budget and showed you how if we were building the budget from scratch and we were going to look at our staffing standards and we added the teachers, the principals, the clerical, instructional aides and so forth, how that layered down every piece of the budget of that base of the $262 million. It's all the changes that have occurred in the course of a year of turnover primarily. So, well, teachers retire, younger teacher comes in at a lower salary. That's probably the preponderance of it. Benefit amounts that change. Maybe somebody had family, the next person comes in with a single family rate. That's almost a $10,000 difference in one person right there. If we're going to continue providing services the way we provide them now, I think the answer is yes. We have looked at efficiencies and we've made these adjustments that are identified here in the reductions. The rest of it is, the thing that squeezes us the hardest is the fact that we're running the number of schools we're running with the number of kids we have in our buildings. That's really what it shows us. It's difficult to get that number down. It's still a high cost per pupil, $13,000, but that's because of the number of kids we have in the buildings we have. If we're able to streamline the buildings and put more kids per building, our costs will come down for people. We can take the funds that we're spreading out over 45 schools, 46 schools, and condense them down into fewer buildings. We can take those same dollars and have more money per pupil to do $27 million of academic improvements and so forth. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, we will. Yes, ma'am. That's a good question. It does look like it's costing us, but actually what's missing is that the board, the board just prior to you, I think, made the decision to close the warehouse, or maybe you did your first year in. The money was cut, the positions were eliminated, but the function still kept running, so we've been running off of temp help. So if we were going to actually keep the warehouse open, we'd actually have to fund it with 4 positions, which would be $500,000 in operational costs that we don't have in the budget. So it's cheaper to add a clerk in finance, pay the bills externally to the vendors, and also not have to upkeep the equipment and so forth that's needed for that operation.
So I'll close out, and if you notice, one of the things we did this year was, this is not about a superintendent's budget, it's a superintendent's estimates of needs. If you really understand the process that we've gone through, is the year when we first came in mid-year, we kind of held things flat because we didn't know what the estimate of needs would be. So AIP came out of the conversation that council wanted AIP to be developed for academic improvement and what the cost would be. What you also have here is the fact we're trying to recover from years since 2009 of major draconian cuts. And cuts that also did not factor in the fact that in some cases you cut people, but there were no dialogue or ramifications with regards to how do you deliver those services, and the impact behind it. And that's been the challenge also. And the bigger picture is this for me as a superintendent. We currently are representing 17.1% of the city's budget. In 2009, we were 21%. If this was fully funded, you'd only be getting back to your 2009 status as a percent of the city's budget. And you actually have more students now than you did then, and 300 or 400 less staff. So we're trying to recover from draconian cuts. And we're not advocating a tax increase. It's about decisions of where the allocation of resources. In our local jurisdictions, Hanover and Wrightville, many of them, they're around 35, 40%. You go to Fairfax, they're over 50% of the city's budget or county budget for workforce education. So, but at the end of the day, it comes down to, it becomes a budget request once the board decides what it is they're going to send forward to the city, and that actually becomes the budget request. But this is estimates of needs, 20-something million, puts us really back where you were in 2009. And I think someone on the board said it best, it's an investment that is not about doing the status quo. It's about doing some things differently. 21% investment out of total city's budget, that's what it would equate to. And we believe that we're the biggest stick in this part of it.
Yes, sir.
At this time, we have a special presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Candace Hunter, Chief of Staff District, and this evening I would like to make a special presentation to close out Board Appreciation Week. And so in the spirit of highlighting the excellence within our schools and our children, we commissioned a child from each of your districts to draw a picture, and we had it framed. So we would like to present those to you. They are so beautiful. This one is for Mrs. Sturdivant. Mr. Vanna White will present. This one is for Miss Gray, and the student's name and their ages are on the back, so if you want to open it and see, but it's there. Mr. Bourne has a really awesome tennis shoe for the jump shot. Miss Larson has a baby, so cute. Mrs. Taylor has a water painting, very beautiful. Mrs. Harris Muhammad has abstract art. Mr. Coleman has Barack Obama. Dr. Jones has a special fancy thingamajigam of RPS. And Mrs. Pinckney Epps has the cutest, I think. So we hope you appreciate and enjoy this, and have a good evening. Thank you.
I think we should set our picture frames out on that desk, ladies and gentlemen, so the audience can see this.
Right, Madam Clerk.
Before we move to the next item, let the record reflect you've been joined by Dr. Jones, and your next item is your public information briefing.
We do have an interpreter tonight. Is there anyone who needs interpretive services? Okay, sir.
Buenas noches. Si alguien necesita intérprete en español, por favor avísame. Gracias.
Okay, we didn't have any speakers who signed up tonight. If there was anyone who would like to speak to the board tonight, you line up to my right. Please. Okay, Madam Clerk, due to the number of people that we have signed up, We're going to have 2 minutes for individuals and, again, 5 minutes for group.
Good evening, School Board Chair Coleman, Vice Chair Larson, Superintendent Benton, and all other members of the school board. My name is Charlotte Hare, and I'm President of the Richmond Education Association. I'm asking you tonight first to please make sure that you mark your calendars for March the 2nd, 2015. As in past years, I've literally shown up with my cat-in-the-hat hat, put on my hat, and asked you to join me. I have no hat tonight, but I am asking you to put it on your calendar. I'm asking you to save this date on your calendar to join the National Education Association Read Across America Day. And this year, the book is the Seuss classic, Oh, the Places You'll Go. As we always do, we promote reading and sharing books with our students in order to help instill the love of reading as well as improving reading skills. This is a great opportunity for each of you to spend some time in the schools with our students promoting reading. I came across this quote, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The beginning of wisdom is acquiring wisdom, and with all our acquiring, get understanding." Tonight I stand with some of my colleagues to help them understand and express that they are not alone. Unfortunately, it is that we still do not know how to treat each other, and we still don't know how to communicate with each other. For if communication is crystal clear, and if understanding is shared, then many instances things will not be misunderstood or taken out of context. So tonight I'm standing with some colleagues, my colleagues from Martin Luther King, Mr. Coleman, who'd like to share their stories with you all tonight. It has become my policy that I cannot tell another person's story better than they can. So tonight, some of my colleagues from Martin Luther King would like to share their stories with you, for they tell their stories much better than I can. Thank you.
Please be reminded there is no applause during the public information period. Thank you.
Before my time begins, someone in the audience said, Mr. Coleman, that your plaque is shining directly in their eyes. I asked if you would possibly move it. Tom Hartman, speaking as an individual. I'm wearing Benton blue tonight. It's an idea that started on the Facebook. For me, it does not mean that I automatically support every proposal. Let's just say I wear Benton blue. And there are many other people in the audience wearing blue. I'm here to speak tonight about the professional development time. I know it's very fluid, depends on what money you can find. The particular idea that's been floating around that I want to speak to is the idea of 5 additional hours a week for no compensation. Suppose that we are all employees of the Dudley Do Right Donut Company, and the boss calls us in and says, folks, headquarters needs more donuts. I'm going to have to call you in for 5 hours of overtime every week. And some brave soul pipes up and says, well, that's going to be hard for me and my family, but the time and a half will at least mitigate that. And the boss says, well, not exactly. I don't think you understand. Headquarters needs more donuts. They aren't providing more money. So, shortening my story, the next day he calls them back and says, you know what? We see we cannot treat hourly employees that way. So we're putting you all on salary. And the same brave soul says, well, what's the increase? And the boss says, no increase, you're just now on salary for the same amount of money. Let's please find another way of doing what we all hope for is a great professional development program.
Chairman Coleman, Vice Chair Larson, members of the school board, and Dr. Bedden. The first thing I'd like to say is I really appreciate the job that this school board did about a year and a half ago in the vetting of the selection of Dr. Bedden. Brought excitement to the city, and it brought us an excellent superintendent. But then I was saddened this week to read about maybe he's being considered for one of the top spots in Boston. So a group of us got together and decided that we wanted to wear the Bedden blue, and we wanted to make our pitch and make it daggone difficult for you to lead this city. So we came up with a letter. Dear Dr. Bedden, as a broad consortium of business, nonprofit, and community leaders, we are writing to express our unified hope that you remain in your role as superintendent of Richmond City Schools. The challenges you have faced since you began your tenure here have been great. No doubt there are many trials that have been transpired out of public view. But we want you to know that we support the changes that you have led, and we thank you for your strong, courageous leadership in the face of insurmountable challenges. We appreciate the team that you've recruited, the risk that you have taken, and the vision you have cast, and the strategic plan you have charted. We believe that though it will take time for enduring change and stability to transpire, we are convinced that you are the leader our city needs to make it happen. We stand behind you, we stand with you. We believe that this is a challenge worth your engagement for the long term. We're better with you, Dr. Bedden, yours sincerely. And this was signed by over 600 people since Friday. Some of you may recognize Richard Cullen, Chairman of McGuire Woods, Tom Farrell, Kelly Crocus, Tom Joyce, Dr. Stearns, Danny Avula, Damon Jiggets, John Mason. Thank you so much. You get the drift of where I'm coming from. We're trying to make it hard, Dr. Bedden, and all the blue is out here for you, and all the kids with their signs for you also.
I'm going to talk fast because 2 minutes go by fast. Hello everyone, my name is Janice Rouse. I'm an MLK teacher. I have a lot of questions and hope that my board member will eventually help me later on. But these are my questions. What is the difference between conditional agreement and reconstitution? Mr. Hopkins tried to help me, but I still need some more explanation. Number 2, in what school systems were reconstitution enacted prior to coming to MLK? We are the first one in the city. So I know that we're the guinea pigs, but I know it's going to go to another school. When you say you want 26 new teachers at MLK, does it mean teachers who never taught in Richmond? Does it mean teachers who ask for transfers from other schools in Richmond? Or does it mean teachers coming from the residency program who have to remain in the school for 3 years? Or teachers from other systems? Someone said Portland, Oregon, I don't know. Okay, next question. What school is next in line for reconstitution? Then it may mean that if I go to another school and that school is in line, then I'm in the same situation again as having to move or whatever you do. Next question, when will rezoning take place at MLK? We've heard for years that our students will be rezoned. It's been a rumor, but I don't know. Next question, how is the negative publicity in the media affecting our MLK staff, our parents, our students, and our community? This is not a warm, happy, fuzzy feeling for us. Last question, how many security staff, not hall monitors, we were told that we would be getting hall monitors in 2015, 2016, be added to MLK for the 2015-2016 school year. Even though we were given information about this topic Friday,
these questions still need to be addressed. And I appreciate our board members, our special board member, and all of you board members for helping us to just resolve these issues, because we're kind of sad. Thank you.
Speakers, please state your name and sign the sign-in sheet when you come up. And audience, please be reminded there is no applause during public information. Thank you.
My name is Dolores Maury, and I am a concerned citizen speaking tonight. Good evening, Mr. Coleman, the chairman, and all the school board members, because I think I know all of you, and some of you know me. And first of all, I have so much that I want to say, and I only have 2 minutes to say it, so it might sound like I'm scattering all around, but I'll try to say some of the things that I really want to say. Number one, thank you, school board, for hiring this superintendent that's sitting here. Thank you so much for hiring this man, because he has given me the feeling that he is really concerned about the children. And I'm a firm believer in building a firm foundation, because everybody talks about middle school, high school, middle school, high school. The middle school teachers cannot. The high school teachers will not be able to do what they need to do in teaching our children unless we lay a firm foundation in the elementary level. I'm talking about pre-K through 5th grade. If the children are not ready for middle school, if those skills are not in place during elementary years, then you know you're going to have a hard time at middle school level. I came out of the preschool program. I worked there for 22 years, and I do know how important that program is. Over at Murray Scott building, it is now all of the classes now are preschool. There's only 12 kids in each class. Something has to be looked at. Also, be sure that the teachers that are teaching at that level are experts, and I mean that's experts in what they are teaching those children, to make sure that they are able to go with those skills in place when they go to middle school. Secondly, we got to find a way to get parental involvement. Okay, parental involvement. Parental involvement, I got to say this real quick, that code of conduct book, you got to find a way to get those parents to sign those contracts in the back. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Coleman, Vice Chairman Larson, members of the board, and Dr. Bedden, Superintendent Bedden. Good evening. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Eileen Atkinson. I'm the principal at Patrick Henry School of Science and Arts. I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Deborah Corliss, who is a board member at Patrick Henry and has been with the school for many, many years. Dr. Bedden, our faculty and staff and board would like you to hear these thoughts this evening from all of us. The faculty and staff and the board of Patrick Henry School of Science and Arts would like to express our profound disappointment at the potential of your leaving the district. It is our fervent hope that you remain in your role as leader and superintendent of Richmond City Public Schools. We realize that the challenges presented to you have been many, but we believe that you are the right person for the job, and we hope that you will consider staying with us to complete the plan that you have put in place. We want you to know that we support you, and we support the fine team that you have put together. We think you've assembled an incredibly strong team, and with your courageous leadership in the face of innumerable challenges, we know that you can do the job and help us get it done as well. We appreciate the bold direction that you're taking with the system and the renewed optimism that you have brought to the schools. While we realize that time is needed for your vision and your plan to come to fruition, there is no one else we would like to see at the helm other than you. We are with you and stand ready to support you, as we know that you have the best in mind for each and every student. It is our hope that you will remain as our leader to guide us all through to a great new beginning. We appreciate you, Dr. Bedden, we support you, and we hope that you will stay. Sincerely, all of us at Patrick Henry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Margaret Henderson, and I'm a retired 36-year veteran. I'm speaking as a grandmother and as an elementary teacher. I have a granddaughter at MLK, and she loves MLK. She loves the staff, the students, and the school. She's in the honors program, and she's doing very well, and I'm very proud of her. We speak daily about her learning experience here at MLK, and she does not want to leave. I'm certain that there are many teachers, because I'm in the school a lot, that do a good job, a great job for our students. I'm sure that they are providing good instruction and learning strategies for our students, because I look at my granddaughter and I come to the school a great deal. But I do feel that school teachers cannot do it alone. The elementary teachers have to do their part. We can't, MLK cannot transform brains, so the elementary school teachers have to do their part. And the home and school must work together. Also, not addressing discipline issues can affect the students as well as the morale of the teachers. So we need to take all of that into consideration when we talk about instruction. We need to also include, what are we going to do for the discipline? What are we going to put in place for the discipline? And how are we going to address and bring the home and school together? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jasmine Betts, and I am a 6th grade English teacher here at Martin Luther King Middle School. I have been teaching at MLK for over a year. For as long as I have wanted to be a teacher, I have wanted to work in Richmond Public Schools. I'm a product of Richmond Public Schools, and I had phenomenal teachers. My goal has always been to do for my students what my teachers did for me. It is really disheartening to know that reasons for this reconstitution have been this reconstitution has been placed in the hearts of my colleagues and I are test scores, people who actually want to be here. And recently, a statement of the children are being defrauded of a quality education. What I know to be true is that teachers at this school are working hard every day. Pick any day of the week, come to this school after 4:30, and what you will find are teachers working hard to ensure that they are doing everything possible for our children. I will say this, no, it is not the easiest place to work, but we are here because this is where we are needed. Our kids need us, and we want to answer that calling. I'm highly invested in the future of these children. This is my community. My daughter attends a local elementary school, and this is her zone middle school. We have to prepare our children academically, but also reach them and prepare them to be positive and active members in our communities. My question is, when this decision to approve a verbal idea to reconstitute this school, why was it that the teachers, the students, the community, the stakeholders were not involved in this closed meeting that happened in December? It's now February.
Good evening. My name is Nikia Springer. I'm a parent for 2 students at MLK. My daughter academic is higher than what it was when she first got here. And I don't think that MLK teacher today is a good teacher. It's not them. I think it's just half of the students that's here, because it's like if the teachers say come in the classroom, it's like they fuss, they want to fight the teacher. And like I said, I don't think it's got to do something with the teacher. It's got something to do with the parents and the students. There's certain students that go to MLK. Because my oldest daughter, she is in the 8th grade. Her reading level was lower, now it's a higher grade. Her test score is higher than it was when she first got here. But now it's like everything, all her test score is higher than where it was when she was in elementary. So I think that MLK teacher done a good job with them.
Good evening. My name is Paris Triplett. I am a parent of Elihu Betts Jr. He attends the school here. He is a Scholar Road student. And I always observe and listen to what my son says when he comes home. He loves all his teachers. He feels that if the students will act right, they will receive the education they need, the knowledge they need for whatever subject whatever room they're in at the time. He tells me all the time when he come home, it's not the teachers. I have great teachers. It's the students. Think about what is going on in this community. You understand what I'm saying? The kids is disciplined. They need more discipline. I stay on my sons, both of my sons. And I feel like it's wrong for y'all to throw it all on the teachers when y'all really need to look at the big picture. Students, if they're disrupting the class and keeping other students from learning, there is where your problem lies. Not with the teachers. You have great teachers here. This I know for sure. Anything that goes on with my son, anything that goes on in this school, I am aware of. I'm a hardworking parent. I feel it's wrong for all the fingers to be getting pointed to the teachers. I think it needs to be more discipline. I think it needs to be more security. I think it just needs to be more meetings like this. Y'all really need to hear the community and what us as parents think about what's going on. It's not the teachers. They have great teachers. Thank y'all.
Good evening, Mr. Coleman, Chair, and Ms. Muhammad, our school board representative. 1954 was a landmark case in which the Supreme Court declared state laws establishing separate public schools.
Sir, please state your name.
Antonio Guilford, exceptional education teacher at MLK, also SGA liaison. At the moment education was transformed to society, believed that education is now fair. Fair, however, is not equal. Fair means receiving whatever is needed to be successful. This also includes for school districts and public schools. Currently, MLK is not being treated fairly because the school is not receiving what it needs from the school district to be successful. Upon starting this 2014 school year, it was recommended per central office staff to put together a committee that will unite staff and structure plans that work for our building. Following the directions of the discipline committee, we established support and staff to work with our students directly. Some things requested were an increase of security due to 734 student enrollment, also a dean of students to decrease the amount of time administration spends on processing student referrals and increase the instructional leadership roles they have been assigned. A school zone sign and a crossing guard to assure the safety of our young students crossing Mosby Street. Our school serves 5 low-income housing areas all in which come with specific needs from the community and teachers. The staff has asked for an alternative school
30
inside of our
seconds.
current school that will educate, build character, student morale, and also instill levels of respect society will not teach our young African American boys and girls. Keeping in mind the school to prison pipeline that our school system contributes to, starting with our community of feeder schools. It takes a special teacher to work at the school such as this school. Before changing the staff, why not deliver the resources you've promised? In support of our students, colleagues, and community, we want to stay at MLK.
Again, if you noticed, we stated a few times, no applause. We understand this is a highly emotional issue, but we do have to maintain protocol. So we would just ask, once again, no applause. Thank you.
My name is Corvell Poe, and I am a student here. I am an 8th grade student here at MLK, and I am also part of SGA. I think highly of all my teachers, especially the strategies they use. My teachers give me multiple grades, therefore it is easier for my peers and I to succeed in their class. My teachers ask us multiple questions that help my peers and I retain information. My teachers give me great advice for me to succeed in the future. They always give me compliments and encourage me to do better and try harder. I love all of my teachers, and I'm sure my peers love them as well. So please let them stay.
How everyone doing? Okay. My name is Mohammed Brothers. I'm in 8th grade. I attend MLK Middle School, and I'm also a member of SGA. Also, the question today is how my teachers impacted my school year so far. I do have teachers that provide a moving force which motivates me and show me with a caring aroma. Being involved in SGA sponsored by Mr. Gifford, I have learned to be a leader in my school and community. So I ask you please let them stay. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day.
My name is Charleston Freeman. I'm an 8th grader and member of the Student Government Association here at MLK. The classroom experience here at MLK is all right. There's the occasional students who are disrespectful and skip classes. There are classes that people can't really learn in because the classroom is disruption. Although there are some teachers such as Dr. Bynum, Mr. Miller, and Mr. Wynn's class that there really isn't any disruption. I feel like I can learn to the fullest, and if I didn't understand what was going on that day, they provide after-school tutoring. They ensure that when I come to school, I'm going to learn. Another big contributor to this was Mr. Guilford. He and Ms. Corbin established the safety patrols. Although it wasn't as successful as we thought it would be, it provided safety to our hallways and classrooms. My friends and I were part of it. The teachers here are great. It's just if the kids will put forth more effort to learn, the SOL scores wouldn't be as low. The teachers here teach us everything we need to know for the SOL. And I think with the right state of mind, we can achieve the scores necessary and exceed the soft bigotry of low expectations society has placed upon us. I ask you to let them stay at MLK.
Hello. My name is Tashawn. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Coleman, Assistant Chair, to the school board members, Dr. Betty. Just have a couple of things that I would like to bring to the board on this evening. There are some flaws with the process that we've been explained.
May I state your name, please?
Avis Richardson.
Thank you.
There are some flaws with the process that has been explained to the staff here at MLK. And the two that I really want to point out, the due date on the intent forms was already past due by the time the staff received them. The insight assessment was not available on the due date and is still not available as of 1/15 today. Mr. Jeffers told the staff on Friday that a new written timeline would be sent to the staff. We didn't receive that. Mr. Jeffers commented that the snow days certainly delays some of the days. We don't have that in writing. Okay. We have not received an updated timeline as of yet. We need to know the exact process so that we do everything we can do to stay at MLK. Thank you.
My name is Christian Bradford. I'm an exceptional education teacher at MLK. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairwoman, and all distinguished members of the school board, Dr. Bedden, and to all the parents, educators, and stakeholders of Richmond Public Schools. I approach you tonight to address a precarious and grave issue that besets Richmond Public Schools and the fate of our school division. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School, architecturally and aesthetically, stands out in the community as making progress and change in the right direction. Unfortunately, the experiences that the staff, faculty, and administrators face on a daily basis is dire and in need of significant assistance. Furthermore, some of the same serious problems that educators face at MLK are shared by our colleagues and counterparts at other schools within Richmond Public Schools. This problem we face is the lack of a code of conduct that not only holds students and parents accountable for their actions, but that also provides a way and a means for enforcement. One can clearly look at MLK as an example of this fallacy. For the 2012-2013 school year alone, MLK was responsible for nearly 26% of disorderly conduct violations for RPS. There were 50 offenses against staff reported, and while enrollment has increased to over 720 students, there remains only 5 security officers to assign to this school. One of the most unsafe schools in the state of Virginia, according to the VDOE and within Richmond Public Schools, has a ratio of 144 students to 1 security officer. This is unacceptable. Not only from speaking as a faculty member, but also as a parent. There have been multiple requests for additional security, but they've been declined. I certainly request and hope that the school board not only revises the code of conduct, but also realigns our security staff. Until students are held accountable and faculty and administrators are given appropriate tools, improving academic achievement will be futile. Thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening, Dr. Benton and School Board. I will be speaking as a group instead of an individual. My name is Mariah.
Which group are you representing?
I'm getting ready to state that. My name is Mariah White, and I will be speaking for the group Vet for Vet, LLC. I am a vet, and we love our children. And to see these children out here with signs wanting Dr. Benton to stay. You know, when that was a great process, and I heard somebody say, well, we should have a community pick the superintendent. Well, the community did pick the superintendent, Dr. Benton. And I agreed 100% with Dr. Benton. But Dr. Benton, you have a little cliche or quote you want to say, and you said education is for improving the lives of others. And for leaving your community better than you found it. Well, we expect for you to leave this community better than you found it. I know you may have to leave, but I felt that you was the one here for the Richmond Public Schools. Now for the school board, I don't know why we're coming in here with this reconstructing of MLK. You already know what you're working with. There is a discipline problem. It needs to be enforced, standard of conduct. Everybody has come up here. There's nothing wrong with these teachers. You have other schools that are not accredited for 3 and 4 years. So why are they being picked on first? If you're going to do it straight across the board at the same time. Don't just come in here and, because it's a new school, now it's time for us to change teachers. Because that don't work for me. See, these students stood up here, they got signs in here, and they're saying they want their teachers and they want their schools. So if you really, really care about our students, you'll keep these teachers here. It's not the teachers, it's the students. You need to have a discipline problem. There's a discipline problem all across this. Don't even let me start with your board, okay? But there is one here in this school, and it needs to be taken care of. See, our children seem to image what we see most of the time. So first of all, we got to get it together. Then we can keep a superintendent just like Dr. Benton.
Okay, before you speak, sir, at this time, the line is closed. We initiated for people to line up to speak. This time the line is closed. We do have other business we're going to have to deal tonight. Thank you so much.
Good evening, my name is Blaine Lay. I'll be speaking as an individual. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Ms. Vice Chair, Superintendent Bedden, and the rest of the school board. I wanted to start by saying thank you. My mother is an elementary school principal, and she comes home with stories about all the things that happened that day, the good, the bad, with the kids, the parents, the teachers, other administrators. And I wanted to say thank you for serving us. We may not always agree, but I'm appreciative that you take the time, the energy, and the effort. Dr. Bedden, I understand that you're looking at a position in Boston. And while it was hard to hear, I appreciate that you've acknowledged it publicly in the last couple of weeks. And if you left, it would be tough. Our school system's in a time of transition. I think over the long term it'd be okay. There's a lot of people in here that love Richmond, wearing t-shirts and standing up. And if I'm you, Boston's attractive. It's something you have to take a look at, consider with your family, and understand that. But There are a lot of good things happening in this city, and there's work to be done. What I ask is that as you take a long, hard look at Boston, Massachusetts, you take a long, hard look at Richmond, Virginia. Now, I know your job's not easy. If it was easy, somebody would have already done it. But we're all here for the same reason, and that's to provide great education for the children in this city. And there's a great opportunity here, right? Like, we could be the national model, and the opportunity is here.
30 seconds.
Not in spite of our challenges, but because of them. And the opportunity is massive because the need is massive. So it takes two things. It takes vision, it takes fortitude. It takes vision to see what could be, and fortitude for a commitment over the long term to get things done. So I hope that you hear our support, and we can do some great things here in Richmond. Thank you.
My name is Art Bergman, and I'm a speaker as the Executive Director of Kinfolk Community. We're an organization that works in Mosby Court, and we've dedicated ourselves to two things: providing after-school activities for children that support education and helping families who want to get out of public housing. I've been doing educational quality work for 15 years, and I have to say that the proudest moment that we have had has been the selection of both this board and both Dr. Dana Bedden as superintendent of Richmond Public School System. Because for us, your leadership symbolized the possibility of us having an educational school system that could educate all children. And it meant that we were moving to a moment where we were going to have a vision that brought this entire city together, and a city that lacked a vocal educational leader. You know, the idea that removing teachers from this school will solve the problem of public education. I work in Mosby, and I can tell you it will not solve the problem, because there is nothing in our communities right now that support public education. It is questionable whether as a leadership and as a city we even value public education. And I know it's been unfair for us to lay that weight and that mantle on your shoulders and make you that guy that was supposed to change and is supposed to change all of that, when we sit back and say and do very little and spend so much of our time arguing amongst each other and seemingly not supporting you. I haven't heard any other leader in this city speak up about the need for us to value education in this city. I've only heard one board member publicly acknowledge the need for our children to be better readers, and that was Mr. Sturdivant sitting on the end. And we know reading is a problem. We know conflict resolution. I work in a community where every argument ends in a fight. And if a child cusses me out, the parent cusses me out. If a child fights me, the parent fights me. You know, I know that it is a difficult job that we have asked you to do. And I know Boston is an attractive city. When my pastor took over the church in Chesterfield, he wanted a bigger, shinier church in Richmond. And when Dr. E.D. McCray, he went to ask his council about whether he should have a church or not, he said, well, you can always get a bigger, shinier church, but you can go to heaven from here. And I would say the same thing to you, Dr. Bedden. You can get a bigger, shinier school system, but if you fix Richmond Public School System, you will go to heaven from here.
Good evening.
My name is Antonio Miller, and I'm probably going to be the most hated person after these next couple minutes, but it's cool. So I had the pleasure since October, because I really wanted to be an influence on African American children who come from rough circumstances like myself. And I've gotten that opportunity with RPS, and I'm thankful. But with that, addressing the elephant in the room, it's been skirted around a little bit, but I think we all should take blame for some of the problems, parents, teachers, and board. A lot of these kids don't have parents. They have people in the household, but they're not parents anymore. There's no spanking, discipline, none of that. I've subbed for teachers who have no game plan for teaching. I've also subbed for teachers who are on the ball and, do what they're supposed to do. They're great teachers. There's a lack of discipline from the kids, behavioral problems. I've been threatened, cursed out, whatever, all of it. Mr. Bedden, I actually caught one of your first meetings when you were at WIF. Parker Agelesto put it on. A lot of fire in your eyes, that was really good to see, but what I didn't see there was parents. Not one. So on behalf of them, I guess I apologize, because I don't see many parents in the audience now either. There's a lot of teachers. But, my parents made me what I am by disciplining me and being there. And our kids are being, they've been done a disservice by not having that. All right, so, yeah, MLK does need new teachers, but y'all shouldn't get rid of the good ones y'all have, because you're going to bring in 100 new teachers for the same kids, the same environmental problems, the same nurture problems. You'll be back here next year. I'll be back here to say the same thing to you. Richmond, time? Well, peace out.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Taylor, could I say something first, please? Sir, who's at the podium?
Yes, sir.
I was going to let you speak because you were already in line when I said that the line was over. Now, Mr. Martin Jr., you understand protocol. I know you came in a little late, but we had said that the line was closed. If you still want to speak, I want to allow you to speak. But, oh, well, there we go. At this point, now we have a challenge, an issue.
I can say what he said here in press conference.
All right, thank you. Okay, young man.
Thank you. My name is Corey Fokenye. I'm, as the elders tell me, I'm a South City, and I live on the south side of Richmond, Virginia. My zone school is a Huguenot High School and Lucille Brown Middle School. I'm here with the Richmond Crusade for Voters, and I'm a volunteer in the schools with Toastmasters International. I know there are a lot of problems here in Richmond, but I believe that if we all work together, roll up our sleeves, we can make something happen. We're here not because of us, but because of those little kids in blue that can't vote. They do understand what's going on. So what we need to do is kind of roll up our sleeves and work together. I think it can be done. And I'm one of those concerned parents. I'm in the schools almost every day. I'm at Lucille Brown. I volunteer at Huguenot. And we got to work together. That's the only way it's going to work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, this concludes our public information session. I want to thank everybody for coming out. We're going to take a 3-minute recess because I'm sure many of you really want to stay the entire meeting. But for those who do not, you have an opportunity to exit at this time.
vacated back.
Oh, she told me. I was going to go to that.
But we have to write down what people said. We know it's not right now stuff. And I give what the answer to these questions. One real direct, clear questions. Timeline, all that. Those are the great questions. So between the But here's the deal. This is what I think the hard part of people to understand is the Constitution. Good teaching will be perfect. That's not what it's about. It's not to address teaching. It's to address the fact that we have to show the state that we're making progress. What do you think the next thing is? What's the next thing you think? They'll take the school. That was our chance. You way smarter. Okay, so now be honest. I want you to understand. No, that's my answer. I live in the school. I live in the block. I'm a pastor. I know what you're saying. The community has to change. It's unfair that the school system is treated
Blasphemy.
It is great. The teachers get treated like they're the problem when we understand that the greater problem is if you had a private one and say, we have too much private. Look, it's not the teachers, it's private. It's us. How do we solve the community problem? Hold on. Don't stutter. Yeah, how do we solve the community problem? Who has to solve the community problem? Thank you very much. I gotta go. All right? Board members, you could return to your seats so I can call the meeting back to order, please. And we have a presentation, so your seats are out here on the front row. Board members, return to the front row, please. Board members really help us out. We have a board member who needs to leave for a special event, but she really would like to see this presentation. So we're going to call it back to order. We'd like to call to order. Thank you very much for everyone to take their seats. Madam Clerk, could
The next item on the agenda is item 3, minutes and presentation of official business and items for action. The first item is 3.01, receive a recommendation, on the Metropolitan Preparatory Academy Charter School.
Chairman Coleman, Vice Chair Larson, other honorable members of the board, Dr. Bedden, Assistant Superintendent Kranz, other honorable RPS administration members, esteemed teachers, parents, students, and other community stakeholders. I'm Tanya Bingham, and I am a native of Richmond, a very proud product of Richmond Public Schools, a founder of Richmond Urban Collective, and am delighted to be here this evening to have this opportunity to speak with you about a new prospective charter school, Metropolitan Preparatory Academy. Metropolitan Preparatory Academy would be a tuition-free, open enrollment, college and career preparatory program for urban boys in grades 6 through 12. We would open with 100 sixth graders the first year, and then add 100 students, a class of 100 sixth graders each year until we reach full capacity, which would be grades 6 through 12, 700 students, about 700 students. The school has several there are several special features in the blueprint, but one of those, so I have a little over 3 minutes, so I'm just going to go through a few of them. One key feature is more time in school. Our students, for example, will have an 11.25-hour school day. Another key feature will be a global focus. One of the key components of our Global Studies program will be the World Peace Game, which is a life-size board game that's actually a political simulation of international events that's played with teams of students. Another key feature is the Peaceable School. The Peaceable School will be a non-violent conflict resolution program, which will equip our students, our boys, with non-violent, creative problem-solving skills. A fourth key feature of our programming would be full-service school. The full-service school concept is basically a comprehensive wraparound services program. We would collaborate with community professionals and organizations to deliver services like to meet students' dental needs, counseling needs for both students and their families. A fifth key feature of our program is our techno infusion, or tech infusion. Essentially, because we expect that greater than 90% of our students will require, will enter actually 3 or more, up to 3 grades behind in their preparation, in their readiness. We need for our administrators and teachers to be able to put their fingers on data instantly. And so we've selected a technology solution that will enable teachers and administrators to put their fingers on data quickly so that they can make quick instructional strategy decisions, decisions about differentiating lesson plans, and giving feedback to parents and students for performance improvement. Our team is well prepared to handle this. We are a team of 19 now and growing. We have 9 members on our board of directors and 10 on the advisory board. Among us, collectively, we have more than 600 years of professional experience in education, business, the sciences, the arts, anything you name, we've probably done. Two of our cornerstones are active learning and our acceleration plan. Two of the cornerstones of our pedagogical model. Active learning, and I forgot the slide for that one, but active learning is anything that our teachers here do in a classroom that's other than just the direct lecture, like debates and discussions and field trips. We will be largely an active learning program. Data shows that when students can put their hands into things, that they tend to retain information better, and they also are better able to make the connection between their classrooms and the real world. The acceleration plan is another key cornerstone for our pedagogical model. As I mentioned before, our students will enter, most of them, below grade level, some of them as many as 3 grades below level. So we need to get them up to par, and we need to do it relatively quickly. To do that, we have selected some software solutions that, lost my picture here. Thank you. Some software solutions that, I can go it along. Just not as interesting as those. Some software solutions for reading and math that can help us to get students where they need to be. Both these software solutions combine cognitive training with very intense skills development and review of content, very intense intervention programs. We project that using this plan, that we will have about 75% of our students up to grade level by grade 8, if not sooner. Our budget is really simple, nothing big there. Richmond Urban Collective is a nonprofit, so as you can see, the bottom line, we get no profit out of this. In fact, we would operate the school directly. Our board would operate the school, Richmond Urban Collective would operate the school directly, and by doing that, because we're a nonprofit, all the dollars go into teaching. In other words, there's no fee being paid to an outside management company to manage the school. Another interesting thing that's not as apparent from the numbers there, without looking at them for a few minutes, is that over time, basically, we realize economies of scale. And so the per pupil cost of operating the school, capital costs aside, long-term capital costs aside, because we're going to have to do some building later, but long-term capital costs aside, the per pupil cost of operating the school actually goes down in the long term. Proposed timetable. If we were approved by the school board, by the RPS board, we would, some highlights from our pre-opening timetable are, for quarter 1, we would secure space. We're in need of a facility, we would secure space. During quarter 2, one highlight is that we would complete the student applications and lottery process. And during quarter 3, a highlight is that we would open our summer program. That's what I have for you. Thank you so much. I will stick around for questions, and I'm handing the mound over to the next batter, Tommy Kranz.
Would y'all like to take questions with Ms. Bean first before we give you the administrations? No, sir. No. Well, you can ask questions. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, questions? Just a point of clarity for us as a board, please understand, once we receive everything that we receive here tonight, we have 30 days to render our decision. So also that gives us time if we have some intense questions, maybe you can take the questions and respond back if you don't have the answers tonight. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Ms. Gray.
I didn't see anything in your budget for year 1 for food or transportation, which jumped out at me. And do you think it realistic that with the budget cycle, and you wouldn't be funded until June if you were or July 1, that you could have a summer program? You could find a place, rent it, and have a summer program up and running.
Okay, so the first question that I'm hearing from you is about the food and transportation budget for year 1. The second question is about budget for a summer program and whether or not we could have that up and running. Regarding the food and transportation, for the budget may be a little tricky to read because the first column there says year 0, and that's actually the pre-opening period that we're in right now. Year 1, which is the second column, is actually the year 1 budget. In that space, and going forward, I think there's about $225,000 in there for food and transportation. So we may want to look at that again. Yeah, but I'm sure there's about $225,000 in there for food and transportation for year 1.
For year 0, or whatever that first column is, where's that $1 million some dollars coming from?
So that's private funding. That
So
we
you have
would
that?
raise private funding for that.
Do you have that right now?
We don't have it right now. 70% of that number is based on depends on the space. So that number could change by $700,000, depending upon the space that we have. So space figures largely in that. But no, we don't have that $1 million right now. We're working on raising it. Completing this process actually helps us get closer to getting done what we need to get done.
I know you haven't completed this process, but how close are you as far as your fundraising efforts?
Well, actually, we really need this process to wrap up for anyone to take. It's even the federal implementation grant, which is implementation money, I've been turned down twice for because we've been still in the process. And what their notes say is we need, even though the application doesn't say we need a charter, because we're a bifurcated process and we're Virginia, they feel more comfortable if we have an agreement from the board, even if the charter agreement is not complete. So I think that's the second part of your question related to summer school is that we would, summer school funds, again, would come out of the private fundraising for pre-opening. And there are grants out there. There are grant programs out there that will fund that type of special program that won't even fund school, like a whole, school program, that don't do education funding per se, but will fund special programs like summer school. So, yes, so we think that we can get that funded and have it open and operating on time.
Okay, Mr. Sturman.
I just want to say, Ms. Bingham, I owe you a call back, and I will certainly call you, but I support what you're doing, and are there things that we can do to further support what you all are trying to do?
Can I get back to you on that? Yeah, let me get back to you on that. Space is a big issue now, so space, we can figure out space, so yeah, I'll get back to you on that. But you did get in touch with me. I received your email, so sometimes that's the best that we can do. Thank you very much. You always respond right away, so thank you very much.
I owe you a phone call. I'll call you.
Thank you.
Ms. Larson.
I also owe you a phone call, so I apologize. I have a couple questions. I'm just going to list them off.
Sure.
Okay. So with the 11.5-hour workday, if you could break it down for me, how the teachers get paid, does that come out of per pupil, or is it per pupil with some sort of supplement? The second question, I think, is what Ms. Gray asked about how much money you have raised to date. So nothing significant? Is that where you are?
I'm going to list, I can either answer each one, which would you prefer I do, or I thought you said you were going to list them?
I'll just throw out my other question.
Okay.
Okay, and then year one, are you anticipating, is the plan in front of us to open up this summer and this fall? Is that what you're looking at? Or are you looking at having a year to plan and get everything together and then open up for 16, 17?
So,
yeah.
Okay. All right, so I will start from the bottom, since I'm going to struggle probably to remember the other two. The first is our plan would be to open, right now, 15, 16, to start summer school, which we can do in a separate facility if we don't have a permanent facility by then, and then to open on time for the regular school year. The second question was regarding fundraising, and again, it's really going to help us to have, you would be surprised, but people need something tangible. You know, we have a 501c3, done.
I've been through it, I totally understand.
Oh, that's right, you have,
Yeah.
with Patrick Henry, that's right, I forget who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
That's right, so you know exactly what I mean. So yeah, that's what we need. If the board does approve us, then fundraising will happen, right away. I mean, we're already on the effort, so we've already started, readying people to give. And first question.
It was regarding how are you going to pay employees for the extended day?
Yes, 11.25-hour day. Teachers actually, the 11.25-hour day is necessary primarily because we have double periods of English and math. We offer double periods of English and math, and for that and to get everything else in, we need that extended day. But we also offer dinner, and we offer a daily after-school enrichment program and dinner after the after-school enrichment program, so the kids go until 6 p.m. Teachers actually can leave at the end of their normal day. The after-school enrichment program is run, in the blueprint, is run by tutors. And so that's why proximity to VCU would be really cool for us, because we have a board member who can hook up the tutors for us, if, from among VCU students, if we can get proximity to VCU. And then one administrator is assigned, and that rotates on a daily basis. One administrator stays back to supervise the after-school program and dinner.
So how do you pay the tutors?
So the tutors are paid, well, there are two possibilities. In our budget is money to pay them $20 an hour. The other, because they can get credits, school credits for teaching. These are teaching majors. Because they can get school credit for doing it, I've been told basically they will do it for free for us. But we won't allow that because we want to be sure they're going to be there, and so we have it. We have money in the budget to pay them.
In your regular operating budget?
In our regular operating budget right now, in part-time salaries and wages in that line, there is budget for tutors 5 days a week. In year one, there will be 5. There's one for every 20, actually there are 4. One for every 20 students. The 5th head is an administrator who's paid a salary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Mohammed, did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the 11.5 school day mandatory for all students, or will you all use some type of streamlined process using data to determine which students will fall in that category?
Actually, the 11.25-hour day for the first 3 years is compulsory. I mean, I don't think that we can make students stay without getting some special programming coordinated with the state, but that's sort of the expectation, because most of our students, data shows for these types of programs, similar programs in other states, that greater than 90% of the students are going to be coming in below grade level, and that's part of the way that we help them to meet our performance contract for you all, so we don't get booted out, and have a student-centered education, and so our students are prospering.
Dr. Jones.
Ms. Bingham, I may not have heard your answer to Ms. Larson when she asked how much had been raised. Did you give a figure? Or?
I did. We have all of our funding thus far, almost all of it, probably 99% of it has been very de minimis, and it's been gifts from our board of directors, through gifts from our board of directors. Believe me, our budget has been way below shoestring up until now. For 3 years, I've worked pro bono for 3 years full-time, 7 days a week. Off and on. Yes, but we need this decision. And so with this decision, as Kristen acknowledged, and as Deborah Corliss would acknowledge, in this type of process, because there's no ownership, you can't, we're a nonprofit, there's no ownership. If we were a fee company, things could work differently, because people might invest money because they see a fee out there. But as a nonprofit, he's giving everything to the school. You know what I mean? Basically, all the dollars are going to be spent on the school. There's no ownership. You know, people are just donating, essentially. And so they need two things. They need a 501c3, and they want to know that you're going to be up and running. Because otherwise, they could give $500, $1,000, $10,000.
Sure.
And we're not open.
Do you have a target that you're trying to reach?
Yes.
Incrementally, and do you have a method or an established strategy by which you plan to reach that target?
Yes, and those are, all of these have been excellent questions. Our target is basically the gap. We fill the gap between the per pupil amount and what our expenses are, because we're a nonprofit. And so there's no profit incentive. And so, you know, expenses first year, are 1.5 million or 1.4 million, and we got, say we got $200 from the board, then the 1.4 million would be ours to raise. So that's sort of the way it goes. And yes, we have a strategy in place. We're actually starting. We've done a couple. One grant we've applied for a couple times already. We are this month actually doing what I'm going to be doing is doing several grant applications. Actually, this month we have we have several more opportunities coming up. In addition to that, we'll be doing private fundraising, and we've already started that last year. This was top secret until this moment. But last year we actually started our capital campaign planning study, going out to members of the community, leaders of the community, to see how we presented, as an organization and what they thought our potential might be for raising funds. And so we started that process last year. We've had a warm reception for informational meetings, and sometimes that can lead to other things. So we expect we have a consultant hired, actually, who has been doing those for us, because it's supposed to be, objective information that we get back. And so, yeah, we're already on a roll. Having this decision would, if it's unfavorable, it won't help. But if it's favorable, then that would help a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you all. Ms. Larson.
Just another budget question.
Sure.
Have you had a chance to sit down with Patrick Henry and look at their budget as well? Because I know that they also have an administrative fee that is part of their budget, and that's pretty normal for charter schools to have. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see that as a line item in your budget.
Okay, I haven't had the chance to sit down with Deborah Corliss yet. In fact, I just went over to speak with her tonight to say we've got to connect. My schedule's been, just really crazy, but that is something that I want to do. Tell me what the administrative fee is for. That can mean a lot of things in finance.
It means you pay a fee back to the district because the district provides administrative support for you.
Yes.
And that's normal for the charter school world.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what Patrick Henry's is. I think it's 2 or 3%.
Yeah, 2 or 3% is relatively normal for fees of that type. Right now, we do have a fee, an estimated fee in for food service and for food service and transportation. The other expenses are going to depend upon the arrangement that we have with the city. So as we work through this process and move into, if we were successful, we move into the performance contract process, that's where we would determine what types of auxiliary services you all are going to be able to provide. And as of now, we're not sure about the other things. For example, will you be providing, any HR services? I just learned in a meeting last week with Tommy and Michelle Boyd that a fee that we had in actually for special education services will no longer apply because, for example, special education services, the district can't do many of the special education services that we'll need because it's overwhelmed right now. So you see what I'm saying? So it's going to depend on what you all what services you can provide, and that'll be determined but there's room in the budget for it. There are some other things that are going to change, so that would not throw our budget a lot.
I just encourage you to use as many local resources as you possibly can in sorting through some of this, because, you know, Patrick Henry was built from the ground up, and it took a long time to kind of get in a place where it was systematic. And since I've been on the board, there's still been some adjustments made to it. But I would think if we're going to bring another charter school online, we're going to follow the model that we already have. So I think it's a good idea for you to look at that model and know all the moving pieces of it. So I would recommend that to you and your fellow colleagues on the board.
Yep, we'll take care of that really soon. That's an excellent idea and something I know that we need to do. And you're right, no need to reinvent the wheel, and just from an administrative perspective for you all, we need to do it to make things easier.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Muhammad.
Which special education services would your organization need? And also, have we decided which model? I mean, I heard Ms. Larson say we are going to follow the model of Patrick Henry, but maybe that's not the best model. So, okay.
I think in terms of I think the model that Kristen may be suggesting is purely an administrative thing. Obviously, we have a huge, a model. I mean, we have a lot of moving pieces in our program between Peaceful School, Full Service School. I mean, we have a lot of things going on. We won't be the same school as Patrick Henry. But I think, if I understand you correctly, you're talking about the administrative pieces, the way things look on paper, the way things are presented to you, and the level of fees, for example. And that, it makes sense, yes, that stuff would be relatively consistent. Actually, probably present legal challenges if it weren't, so, as well as administrative challenges. And then special education services. We estimate that, based on what we've heard from similar programs, that about 20% of our students are going to need like serious wraparound services. So in our first year, for example, that would be 20 students. And different levels of special education services. Some of them may be 504s, some of them may be on IEPs, and then, with different levels of special education services. And that probably about 2 or 3% of those, based on average, will need very serious, comprehensive services. And so, things like speech therapists, the typical special education special education services that are provided, speech therapists, even different types of equipment. Right now, I'm hearing low supply in the division, and that makes sense. That demand for those services is outpacing supply. But she's also told me. First, I was concerned about how that might affect our budget. If we had to go to the open market for those services. So I asked her in the meeting whether or not she thought that we could get a comparable rate for those services, and she thought that we could. In other words, if we went to the open market, we'd get the same rate that RPS would get. I thought that maybe you all had some economies of scale. But she gave me a figure, between $60 and $80 per hour for that type of thing, which is, fits in our budget to the extent that, that you can budget for that type of thing without knowing who your population is right now. So, that's sort of the answer.
Can we hear from her, because I have a concern with these services that, and I understand that in every division, special education services are rapidly declining depending on the services that the child needs. But I'm concerned that what I just heard, that we don't have enough people in that department to provide to a school that possibly may have children with those needs. So that's what I heard. So I need to.
That's excellent.
Good evening. The services that Ms. Bingham is referencing is speech language services, occupational services, things of that nature. As the board knows, and we've shared previously, we contract out a lot of those services to private companies because it is a shortage area. So for example, almost half of our speech language pathologists or speech persons that we contract through private agencies. And so again, we do not have the supply of personnel to provide in RPS, and so we have to contract out. And so they would do the same thing likewise, whether it was with behavioral aid, speech pathologists, those types of things, or the services that Ms. Bingham was referring to.
Okay. All right. Once again, colleagues and Ms. Bingham, thank you so much. And I'm sure you can follow up with her with their questions, and she will be able to get back with us. Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Krantz?
time and your consideration.
Okay. Ms. Larson. Ms. Bingham?
No, it's for you, Mr. Coleman.
Oh, for me?
Can we
Okay.
just mention when the public hearing on the charter school will be?
Clerk, do you have that?
March 16th.
There will be a public hearing on charter school on March 16th. Okay, thank you. Mr. Krantz.
The committee, we formed the committee in accordance with our board policy. That committee has evaluated the application. At this point in time, the committee would not recommend acceptance of the application. The reason for that is primarily on the facility. As you heard Ms. Bingham said, once a facility is identified, that could have a material impact on their budget. Today, there is no facility that is identified within their plan. Without that, it's very difficult, for example, in their plan, they assume that they'll contract with us for transportation. Today, on the needs that we have and some of the changes that we're talking about next school year with transportation, it would be very difficult for RPS's transportation department to pick up another client. They want to contract with us for custodial services. Today, we're short ourselves. Safety and security. Today, with the additional space, we're short. So until we identify that facility and then you can really see where things are located, it's difficult to understand what the budgetary impact will be because you just don't know. So as a result of that, primarily the lack of the identified facility, the committee's recommendation at this point in time is not to recommend the adoption of this charter school.
Any questions for Mr. Krantz? Ms. Larson.
Can we get a copy of the charter application on board docs? And any revisions?
Basically this bulletin.
Oh.
But yes, ma'am, we can get that to you.
Okay, or maybe I can come to your office and look.
That's fine.
But
I mean, their application's very thorough.
Okay.
It's a good application. It's got its desired goals, but the lack of facilities today, knowing that we open school in 5 months, would be a challenge.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Krantz. Okay, Madam Clerk.
The next item is 3.02, receive for action the mandated school improvement update, replacement of school turnaround partners for Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School, the Richmond Alternative School, and update on essential actions for corrective plan and conditional agreement plan.
Good evening. First, I'd like to request from the board approval of a lead turnaround partner selection for Richmond Alternative and Martin Luther King Middle School. This will complete my request for approvals of lead turnaround partners for this year. And Martin Luther King Middle School has chosen Cambridge, and Richmond Alternative has chosen Catapult. We've met with both principals after withdrawal of a scope of work that was offered by Innovative Education, and those principals have made these selections. So I ask the board for your approval in order for us to get this underway.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Bourne.
Thank you. Did these recommendations come through the same process as the other ones?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
We
you.
went back to we had to go back to the principals.
I move that we accept the recommendation. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is there a question?
I would like to hear from Mr. Hopkins, since he's here, about why they chose Cambridge. And what components are in it that will assist teachers.
Good afternoon, Board and Dr. Bedding. We chose Cambridge because of the reputation that Cambridge has as far as working with teachers, research-based practices that I think would help our school. As you know, we had chosen the other company, but since that company cannot come, we feel very comfortable with that. Additionally, Cambridge also did a report for us at the end of last year, so they were already a part of the school before I arrived. So we decided to continue the relationship with them.
I don't know if, thank you, Mr. Hoppus, I appreciate that. I have a concern with, and I know it's the leadership's discretion, and just based off of what teachers shared with me when they were here before, okay? I have a concern in that choice, and I know the current administration was not a part of that team then when Cambridge was in the building before. But teachers were very concerned. They had numerous conversations with me. I received numerous emails and calls when they were in the building before they moved into this building. It's lack of support, lack of instructional guidance. So, you know, I know it's already done, but I need to see what they're going to do different here. I'm not saying that they're not going to work well in another school, but it was something about the connection with MLK when they were here. It was not working.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Muhammad. Is there a motion? Board, could you speak into your mic, please?
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. I would move that the school board accept the recommendation of the administration.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon? Yes. Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mrs. Harris Muhammad?
No.
Dr. Jones? Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. The next item on the agenda.
Hold on a second. Ms. Larson?
Board members, another piece of this through the state is that we have required board training. So we have 2 proposals that I'm going to email out to everybody, and then we're going to vote on them at our next meeting next Monday.
I'm sorry. I thought the superintendent pulled that. I thought we weren't discussing that tonight.
No, she's just announcing that we will be voting
Okay.
at the next meeting.
So he's going to discuss it prior to us voting?
The proposals will be sent out for our opportunity to explore them, and then, like with any vote, we have to discuss.
Right, I understand that. I think you all are missing my point. My point is this. If the superintendent has stated that he's pulling back on that discussion, then why are we going to vote on possible sessions on Monday if it's not going to be discussed on Monday? That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Ms. Harris Muhammad, I asked to pull that back so I could give the board time to look at the proposals. So I'm going to email the 2 proposals out to everybody tonight so we can look at them.
In terms of the training proposals?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And the state is requiring us to do those.
I get all that, I do,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
you all weren't hearing what I was saying.
All right?
Okay, the last part of the school improvement item is that I've shared the corrective action plan for Thompson Middle School with you on the Friday report, and the conditional agreements for Bouchard, Armstrong, and With. And for each essential action, I have color-coded in blue if there was action by the administration or by the principal at the school for each of those things. I'm just going to briefly just hit about 3 things that I think are important to note. And then if you have any questions about any of the essential actions, I'll take those as well. On February 10th, we met with the special ed director for school improvement, and they added 3 items, or added 3 items that were in the Thompson Middle School Corrective Action Plan based on the audit that was done in December. Although the content audit report out has been delayed due to the snow, we had met with the special ed department there at VDOE to get these essential actions. In summary, they just wanted to ensure that we included special education teachers in the trainings that we were providing. They also wanted to include some special ed data in the quarterly report in regards to the number of newly identified students reevaluations and the exit or continuation after triennial evaluations. And the final was to ensure that the master schedule allowed for equitable distribution and placement of students with disabilities for access to general curriculum content. That was specific to Thompson because they were the school that had the VDOE content audit. In regards to all the plans, we are presently engaged in a series of 8 trainings to address the requirements for professional development that is outlined in each one of the plans. And lastly, in regards to the 2 high school plans, they are presently engaged in using the Virginia Early Warning System and viewing research from the National High School Center in order for their leadership teams to identify and monitor students at risk to graduate. So that's just a real quick summary, but all the details are provided for you. So if you have any questions, you may ask them now, or feel free to contact me.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
The next item is 3.03, receive a facilities update.
I'm not aware. It'll be painless. Okay. The first one we'll talk about is Elkhart. Right now at Elkhart, if you recall, when we made the announcement that we were closing Elkhart and moving into Clark Springs, our first set of repair numbers was right at $5 million. And that $5 million basically said, I have 500 feet of the first floor. I need to tear that up and replace all the steam pipes within them. Now, as we did some additional analysis on Elkhart, our preliminary estimates are on the low end, $9.5 million. That $9.5 million assumes that we have to put in a brand new mechanical system. We will have to do the asbestos abatement on both the floor and the roofing system. And we also have made the assumption that because of that building being 75 years old, that the electrical load there is not going to be able to handle a new mechanical system. By code, when I upgrade the electrical system, I have to upgrade all life safety systems inside Elkhart. And that's a code requirement. That number then rises up to, on the low end, $9.5 million. Now, to do that will take 24 months. If you gave me $10 million tonight and said, Tommy, go start it, it's a 24-month process. I have to have 90 days to do the complete assessment of the building to meet all the EPA and state rules and regulations on the asbestos and the abatement process. We have to then do the design of the mechanical system. We have to do all the removal, the installation, and bring it back all up in the code. It's 24 months. And that's if we work very diligently. At the end of that process, we have a building that's still 75 years old. At that point in time, we have a building that still has windows that leak. And we have a 75-year-old building. Now, if we were going to renovate that building, and we went through as part of the facilities task force where we said, all the schools we want to bring to what we call an equal state. The equal state said we want to make them all as nice as the new high school, the new middle school, and the new elementary schools, as best we could. The cost of bringing Elkhart up to that number, and this was done by our outside architect, who's done the work in 2002 and 2007, and that we've worked with, is $23 million. It's $22.99 million. It's $23 million. That's the cost of renovating that particular school. So that's the Elkhart status. At this point in time, we're doing the building assessment, which we have to by law, whether we do any repair or renovation or if we just closed it down. By law, I have to complete the assessment. We're doing that. And we're in the first week of that process. And that's a 3-month process to complete that analysis. Okay? Sir? Oh, okay. All right. Now, we have a challenge that's facing us. Elkhart, as I said, will be 24 months. If you gave me $10 million tonight, it still would take me 24 months to complete that analysis, to complete that work. Elkhart and Thompson, this is the Elkhart zone, here's the Thompson zone. Thompson students are in yellow, so you can see where all the students that go to Thompson today currently reside. The Elkhart are in purple, and you can see where all the Elkhart students that currently attend Elkhart reside. Okay? When we bring up the south middle school zone, you can see all of the middle schools that are south of the river and where their students reside at. The thing that you'll notice is that the bulk of our middle school students are right where? Right in this particular area. So as we're looking at where do we bring students and where do we start utilizing assets to meet the needs of the students we have, you can see the challenges that we've got today. When we take this reflects today the enrollment and the capacity. So Elkhart's at 87% capacity of its functional number. Bouchal is sitting at 70%, and Thompson is sitting at 54% of its building. I'm sorry. Okay? Now, we use in doing the GIS, the outside group that did the enrollment projections for the district in the past, and we got preliminary numbers. So these may change, but we're going to use them for discussion tonight. In 5 years, okay, the dark brown here says that it's over 100%, so 104. Bouchal is sitting at 98%, so it's still at basically full capacity. And Thompson sits at 52%. In 5 more years, so 10 years out, look at where we're at. Elkhart would be at 115% of its capacity, existing capacity today. Bouchal sits at 103% of its existing capacity, and Thompson resides at 56%. Again, you look and remember where all the dots were, our growth is right in this particular area that's taking place. Okay? Now, we also have a problem in the elementary zones. And the elementary problem is huge. We project next year an increase, if I take and drew a line from Mile Jones over to Oak Grove, in this area, we expect a growth of 192 students for next school year. That's where we're at right now. And there's no place for me to put those students at. We're actually today, in the hole, 305 seats. We're using portables to take care of the excess demand. Okay? In 5 years, same analysis, look how dark it is. Everything's over 100% right in here, with Oak Grove sitting at 97.4%, or essentially at 100%. And that matches what we saw in the middle schools. And then in 10 years, we see our elementary starting to back up a little bit, but still at significant numbers, that this area is well in excess of what its capacity is. Okay? Now, the middle school, something we open, we come back in September of 2015, and we have the elementary school situation, the middle school situation, that we'll come back to y'all with some recommendations. I would strongly encourage, from just past experience, of the board considering a workshop, because as you talk about these different situations, and we looked at just south of the river, we have the same data, the same maps for north of the river. But if you look just south of the river, you can have hours and hours and hours of discussion, because there's lots and lots of different scenarios and options and things that will come up. And there's philosophical questions that you as a board will have to consider. Right sizing. This is the opportunity to right size. And other things that are out there. Any questions? I can't ask for any from the audience. Yes, sir. Dr. Ben, you want me to answer that? Yeah, I mean, we believe, we believe that making the renovation dollars and repair isn't a prudent use of funds, because the return is not there. And if you recall, even if we replaced Elkhart at the number, we're going to be in 10 years well in excess of its capacity. Okay, so we haven't accomplished anything. All right? Okay? If you look at that slide, it appears that from just now pure, this is not from a financial or operational standpoint, but if you look at it, just where the students are and where the needs are, there's a real need to put a middle school somewhere kind of right in there. And this is and it needs to be a middle school that's 1,200 plus students. Okay? Not an Elkhart at 600 students, but a middle school at 1,200 plus students, which then starts doing right sizing and doing things to free up dollars in the general purpose fund to address academic issues, what else would I say, operational issues, whatever the goals and desires of the superintendent and the administration are.
One of the things that you're going to get into, and people are going to freak out when you say 1,200 students. The issue becomes not just the number, but you can mitigate the concern about number by how you design the building. And that's the key. So then that may change your initial figure up front for the cost. But you over time recoup it once you collapse the population and take inefficient buildings offline. So it could change the number and the dollar value of the upfront cost of building a school to put features in there to address the, the size and the number. You got a 1,200, you're looking at a difference in what you normally used to with a cafeteria. But then we got to factor in the flow of traffic, how middle school kids, how they interact. So you may need to do some unique things to keep that from being a huge bottleneck and supervision problem. You can do the old middle school concept, which I'm still a fan of, houses, which effectively, if you look at Clark Springs, it actually has a little bit of that in its elementary design, and actually the teachers, one of the comments I heard today walking through there is they actually love it because they got more control. And the kids do not have to travel as far to get to their next teacher when they're collaborating, working. It is typically, potentially, a little bit more expensive for a standalone building, but when you collapse them, you can repurpose some of those jobs from two buildings. And Fairfax used, for instance, the sub-school model, which really was a school within a school. You had, when I went to Pinellas County, I was a part of the Bill's grade house model. We had grade level administrators for each house, and then overall building principal. And we actually stayed with our core subject teachers in a pod, and they went out to share the elective courses. And that's how they maintain some better control of the population of students when you have a large building design. And I would recommend, too, the consideration for being much more strategic and smart when we do at athletic facilities also. And kind of making a true informed decision about what do we want on a particular site versus the idea of what they call super sites or centralized competition facilities and have more PE and community use at your buildings, those types of conversations you probably want to start looking at. Because you still have a maintenance, when you're running this many buildings, you're running a heavy cost to try to maintain it. Not that the fields and the surroundings that go with the buildings also. A lot of people forget that. Some of your initial savings doesn't necessarily mean you lose, like you don't necessarily lose teachers, you collapse them. Where you quickly lose is you don't have two principals. You don't have two head cafeteria managers. You may downgrade one to assistant because of the size of the building. Same thing happens with custodians. So you'll start there right off the bat with some personnel potential reductions. And then just repurpose where the teachers are assigned because your class will still be the same number of teachers. But you can see this quirky thing here. You really don't have any students up there that we're sending way across town, and there's your population in Thompson. But yet, look where we're reaching and pulling them from when they're passing other schools. The other thing is in 2002 or 2007, I can't remember, this Thompson and Elkhart were supposed to be combined. It was 2009, and really, if the plan had been followed, that was supposed to be a new building that absorbed both of them together for a modern facility. It was actually supposed to be completed in 2009.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to, for these schools in my district, and I'm thrilled that we're having this conversation about I know Mr. Bourne, he don't want to get out of school with it. We'll go some balls in. But we have this conversation about right-sizing the district and what that looks like all the time is true as closing stuff down. But when you look at it, with this amount of detailed data, it's also about strategic position kids, so that we can run an efficient district so that they can also, have access to some great facilities. So I'm looking forward to the recommendation that you have. I have some, and I'm waiting for your recommendation. I got a recommendation for right there. and so, but there are a lot of different ways to approach it. But
you have this, Dr. Joe, not to be disrespectful before you leave your point. You have the same issue with high schools too. So just want to make sure that we capture this moment. Sorry for that.
no, I agree. I mean, I think it's a multi-level issue with, some sort of middle school slide. But, we have Green and Oak Grove and Roll Rock and for near capacity. And so I think we should kind of speak
encourage the board to, because you're right, we get misperceptions of right sizing. Right sizing is a really comprehensive process that includes the conversation about new, modernization, and closing. That's what it is. And rezoning. So it's really a more effective use of your inventory based on now and future. So you take it that way, future could be I need new, it could be mean I take something online, it could be mean I modernize, and that's what we just talked about. It's about effective use, that we just closing.
Correct. Make
To
it,
build it new.
to make it equal. To make it equal to
modernization.
Is that like a straight renovation?
That's renovation. To knock it down and build a new LFAR, you'd be looking at close to $35 million. Yes, sir.
So when do you anticipate you will rezone the secondary school? We have never completed rezoning on the secondary level.
And that's really something the board has to.
I actually want to finish.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Which has made a tremendous issue on the south side with the way we rezone elementary. So we need to make that happen. We need to have that discussion.
So for that to happen, I think the workshop conversation that has to be, I think, dedicated to that conversation in facilities right sizing, period. You can't do this lumped into a normal board meeting. It doesn't work. So the board has to decide, one, this is what we want to, we really want to do this, and then start setting dates focusing just on that. And then the team will focus on bringing information and resources like this to have those conversations. So you start with what is your current inventory, what is your current enrollment, what is your projected enrollment, all those types of things. Where you take your growth patterns and all that stuff. You need to do live birth rates. It's a factor in that, which plays into it, which means not only taking your census. Census, the best way I've seen it done is you actually go to the hospitals also and work with them to get the trends that come out of everything. It's just a whole, just need to say, we want to do this and we want to set a calendar of meetings where you can take, for instance, while the growth thing is designed towards, it says closing, it really is a process that can be used for right size. And like the document I sent to you all, and it'll tell you that's those 18 months worth of work. So you can say, just be safe, for our side, say 24 months. And that doesn't stop you from just doing some tweaking, because you're going to be forced to with overcrowding in some cases. I suspect we're going to have a problem with Huguenot like we did at Broad Rock and those other ones.
And then we're not saying it's okay right now.
Yeah, and then okay, when you build it new, it has an attractive draw.
Okay, so I agree with the right sizing discussion. I think this facility stuff is going to come forward and help fold into all that. But what I'm also seeing from these maps and from what we know is going on in Elkhart is an immediate problem that needs to be addressed. I mean, we have overcrowding now, and I'm assuming if there's even more children coming in next year, I mean, where are they going? If they're zoned for green, and if green's at 135%, you know, we want our students to be in a place where they have the right facility.
Tommy may have more, but at minimum, from a superintendent standpoint, for next year, at minimum, it has to be a conversation about what are we going to do with current Elkhart students
right.
if you don't do anything at all, because we're not recommending spending money.
Right.
So we need to,
so that's one.
And then the elementary crowd.
Okay.
At minimum, going to next school year, that conversation is more needed, and then you can make your calendar for bigger conversation next month.
Well, I would support having a work session as soon as possible, because obviously if we're going to, not that we would do this, but if we're going to bring in more portables or, you know, put a wing on the school or do something to alleviate some of that overcrowding,
next item is item 3.04, receive for action budget transfers. Those budget transfers were on board docs for your review.
I move that we approve the budget transfers.
Moved in second. Roll call.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Boomer?
Yes.
Mrs. Harris Mohammed?
D.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Motion passes with 5 ayes and 1 abstention.
On the way up here, I did ask Mr. Coleman about the possibility of getting those PowerPoints, the maps on our board docs. Can we get those up as soon as possible? So in the spirit of the transparency and the fact that at least one board member who represents the South Side wasn't here to see that. So if we can get that presentation up.
Tommy,
Even if it's in PDF
you
form.
forward the PowerPoint and PDF form to Ms. Lewis?
right now.
Yes, send it.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next item is 3.05, receive for action and human resources action.
Good evening, Chairman Mr. Coleman, Vice Chairman Ms. Larson, school board members. Good evening. I present to you the HR actions for approval, which include the nomination of 14 employees, the change of contract of 15 employees, and the transfer of 4 employees. Other actions for information include the death of 1 employee, the resignation of 10 employees, the rescission of resignation of 1 employee, the retirement of 3 employees, and the change of name of 1 employee.
Okay, anything here where we need to go into close, or can we move forward with this now?
I move that we accept the HR actions for approval.
Moved and second. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Boomer? Mrs. Harris Mohammed? Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
And I'll come back to you, Ms. Harris Mohammed.
I have a desire to go into close.
Motion passes with 5 ayes and 1 nay. The next item is closed.
Yes. We're sorry, Miss.
The
Madam
next
Clerk,
item is to
clarify
receive
that.
for action a resolution reaffirming board policy with regard to board conduct, and that the board would re-examine policy on employment grievances for non-certified support staff and recommitment to the superintendent and the staff on district priorities.
Mr. Bourne?
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. As many of you may or may not have read in one of the news accounts, I committed to bringing forward to this board for its consideration a resolution whereby, long story short, we would reaffirm and recommit ourselves to doing what it is the law allows us to do, what our policies direct us to do, and what the people expect from us. This resolution, and I'm happy to have the clerk read it. Runs through sort of some of the code sections in Virginia Code that we abide by and grant us our power. Some of our policy provisions will set forth our duties and responsibilities, and then also acknowledges that our superintendent has been appointed by us to be the CEO and the CAO of the school division. Our job is not one of day-to-day operation or management, but one of policy making and oversight. And I thought it important, given a lot of things that have happened over the last 8 weeks, that we publicly recommit ourselves and demonstrate that we are really going to be about what's important. And I've outlined 3 things that I think are our most important challenges before us, one of which is the budget and how we spend our dollars that are allocated to us. The second, and that's both general fund and capital fund, capital improvement. The second being our academic improvement plan, which we have adopted as presented by the superintendent and his academic team. And then finally, one of the challenge and issue that we just heard a presentation on, which is our right sizing or facilities conversation. And so the action of this resolution is contained from the point that now therefore be resolved. Again, we affirm our commitments. We adopt as our current priorities those 3 things I just mentioned: the general fund and capital improvement budget, supporting the academic improvement plan, and addressing the facilities task force. When we adopt that framework and those 3 things, we are saying that those are going to be our priorities. We're going to work on those. Anything else outside of sort of emergent things or necessary things will come to the board for consideration as to whether or not we spend time on them or allow the superintendent and his team to spend time on them. It again directs us to refer concerns or inquiries that are not related to those 3 priorities to the board leadership, who will then in turn bring those to us for consideration and put on an agenda. And I think one of the things that we haven't done is put teeth behind what we say when we say we're committed to our policies. And so the last piece of the resolution specifically states that if there are board members that act outside the scope of this resolution by perhaps attempting to unilaterally work on or have the administration work on an issue that's outside of those 3 priority areas, then they will be subject to the disciplinary consequences that are found in our school board policy 1-1.5. And so I submit this to you. There's no pride of authorship here. If there are other amendments or substance that members would like to add, I'm certainly open to those.
Mrs. Muhammad.
I appreciate the resolution. The only concern that I have is that we need to do better with providing things like this up front so we can have time to read it and go over it. We heard 2 board members, or a board member earlier, indicate that she was not aware of a resolution coming out. So we're always talking about communicating better, doing better, but we're not doing it. So I mean, I agree with the language of the resolution, but it speaks to, I don't understand, it's our policies just written all over again. And if we're not going to follow the policies that we already have in place, then what do we expect a resolution going to, what is a resolution going to do if we have situations where board members are not currently following the policy? Because as a board, we've had multiple opportunities to address that, and we haven't done it as a board, and that's on us. That's on us.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bourne.
I don't disagree with anything Ms. Harris-Muhammad has said, and I will certainly apologize for not having sent this out earlier. I worked on it just about up until the last minute when I could in between the day job. And I think you're absolutely right. The one point that I couldn't agree more with is that we have allowed what the public sees as dysfunction to permeate and pervade this board and its work. And unfortunately, that lack of self-governance has taken its toll upon not only the superintendent, but all of our academic staff when we step outside the bounds of our roles and our responsibilities. And I think at this critical juncture for Richmond Public Schools, one in which we are seeing, as I've said before, a renewed sense of hope and optimism in our school, the culture, the climate changing, and we face a watershed moment where our superintendent has been recruited to apply to another school division. And one of the things that I think we can do, just like the folks who came down and wore blue and had the Better with Better signs, this is something we can do to show that we support him and the work that he has to do and that his staff has to do. And what we're saying, in my humble opinion, is we hired you to do a job. We think you've been doing that job and doing it well. And we commit to you that we are going to play our roles, play our position, and do that. And because at the end of the day, we've talked about it a lot, Ms. Harris-Mohammed, but if it's not written down, then it doesn't exist. And so if we succinctly capture what policies we're talking about, make our commitments, then I think that again shows a demonstration that we're committed to letting the superintendent do the work that he and his staff need to do.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Mohammed.
And I appreciate all of that, thank you very much. And I just have to honestly say that I don't want to be held hostage as a board member either. Our constituents expect us to get certain things done. And how I appreciate the work that our entire cabinet is doing. You know, it has to be appreciated, the work that the board members that are serious about this work, the board members that have been constant at this work and have been constant at supporting the team to get the work done, good, better, and different. I'm not looking for people to get around a campfire and sing Kumbaya. I'm just looking for a group of people that want to work together to receive the governance training that we should have been receiving on a regular basis to get the work done. And now we're here. So, you know, the resolution is here. I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, I'm going to say it out loud, I will not be held hostage because we have people that are looking at other places to work. We have work to do. So I support it. We can move forward with it, but I would not be held hostage under any circumstances.
Mr. Paul?
I think we all share your sentiment that regardless of who sits in the seat beside the chairman, we've got work to do. And so whether it's Dr. Bedden or whether it's Dr. Seuss as superintendent, this document, this resolution, I think refocuses on what we were all elected to do, and so I agree. But again, I think until you write it down succinctly like this, it doesn't have it gets lost because we have a big book of policies. So, and I think not being held hostage is certainly all right. Cautionary note for us.
Ms. Larson.
I just want to thank Mr. Bourne for bringing this forward. I feel like the last 2 years on the board have been working up into this, and we've done so much since we've gotten here, and I've heard Dr. Bedden and his staff say that they're working to ground zero. There are so many things going on in our district that it is important that we take a minute to focus on the really important things. And what this document does is list 3 priorities, and that's the academic improvement plan, facilities, and the budget. And that just makes sure that all of us are heading in the same direction and folks aren't getting distracted. So I think this is a really important exercise. I appreciate it coming forward. And I hope that if this passes, that the administration appreciates it.
As your chair, I would like to speak to this resolution. Being afforded the opportunity to serve this board past year and a couple of months as chair, I know one of the things that I have attempted to do has been to help us better manage ourselves. I believe Dr. Bedden and his team have, to this point, modeled extreme committed levels of patience with us to discover how we can better do what we do. And as it has been stated, there's really nothing here that isn't already in our policy, yet I agree with Mr. Bourne and the work that he's done, that to codify it in a way through this resolution where it's listed out succinctly, I know for me, I'm already encouraged that this will be a helpful tool in my role serving you as chairman. It is my hope that Dr. Bedden and his cabinet can, as we go forward with this, recognize again that as a board, we're serious about making sure that we as the board are a part of the process and the team that moves this forward, and doing everything in our power to demonstrate that. And I feel like this resolution provides me as chair a reminder, a strengthening to, as I do my job in serving the board and helping manage us as we move forward. So, any other comments? Okay, Mr. Sturman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to reiterate what else was said, that I think that the intent of this is more than just sort of housekeeping. I think it's more substantive. A strong majority of this board has supported Dr. Bedden and his team routinely and time and again in the last year or so. And I think that this is a sign, not just a symbolic sign, but also tangible evidence of this board and a majority of this board redoubling our efforts to continue to provide that support, because we have all worked very hard the last 2.5 years to create the conditions for success in the school system. And we are gaining a toehold, and much of that is due in part to leadership. And that's Dr. Bedden's leadership, it's his administration's leadership, and that has had the ability to change culture and climate throughout the school system. And we're starting to see the positive effects of it. So this, Mr. Moore has done a phenomenal job, as usual, and this is something that will help change the culture and climate on this board for the better. So I'm happy to support this and appreciate it being put forward. All right.
Yes, we do, sir.
We adopt this resolution.
Seconded by Mr. Sturman. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Sturman?
Yes.
Ms. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Bowman? Mrs. Harrison Mohammed?
Yes.
Dr. Jones? Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Motion passes, 7-0.
And again, as I said before, when we put this on the board docs as soon as possible so that.
Yes, we will get this up on board.
And the next item is closed.
Ms. Muhammad, please.
Pursuant to the exemptions at 2.2-3711A1, I move that this body go into closed session to discuss the assignment. Pursuant to the exemptions at 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, I move that this body go into closed session to discuss the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, contract, demotion, salaries of specific public officers and employees of the school board.
Second. It's been moved by Ms. Harris Muhammad, seconded by Dr. Jones. All in favor? All opposed? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? You are now in closed.
Wonderful.